If you've ever asked your GLP-1 doctor if you should be on hormone replacement therapy and got that like blank stare or that's not my area statement, this episode is for you. If you have ever asked your GYN whether GLP-1 is a good idea and gotten the same response, this episode is also for you. These two medications are being prescribed by two different people who are often not talking to each other, and women get caught in the middle without the full picture. Today, I'm giving you the full picture. Welcome to Off Label with Fallon G, the NP. I'm Fallon, a dual board certified nurse practitioner. I'm smack dab in the middle of perimenopause. I'm a post-VSG patient, and I'm on my personal journey with the GLP-1 medication Mounjaro or tirzepatide. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. The content of this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. I am not your provider. Please speak with your provider before you make any changes to your medications, your health regimen, or your exercise routine. Let's get into it. Two things before we get into the meat of everything. The first thing is I'm going to be honest with you about what the research says and where it is still catching us. We have decades of data on HRT or hormone replacement therapy alone, and we have years of data on GLP-1 medications alone. And we now have newer and growing data on using both of them together. I will tell you what we know. I will tell you what we are still learning. And I will not pretend that the evidence is more solid than it actually is. The second thing is that I am personally not on hormone replacement therapy. This is my own medical decision based on my health history, my family history, and my own clinical picture. This does not mean that hormone replacement therapy is wrong for you. It means that the answer for me is not the same as what the right answer is for everyone else. And I'm telling you this up front because you deserve to know where I stand before I talk about this topic. I personally have a family history of blood clotting as when it relates to hormone replacement therapy. I also do not have any of the major symptoms presented with perimenopause, like the night sweats or any of those things. So medication wasn't something that I focused on. I really focused on fixing my metabolic picture because that was the problem for me. But I know many women who have benefited from hormone replacement therapy. Now, women usually come to this question from two different perspectives. Some are already on hormone replacement therapy and thinking about starting a GLP-1. They feel good on HRT, their sleep is improved, their hot flashes are better. Now they want to try a GLP-1 to manage weight gain. And they want to know if it's safe to take both at the same time. For most women in this situation, yes, it is perfectly safe. But the type of HRT, the dose, and the timing all matter. That is a conversation for your provider. Some are already on a GLP-1 and wondering if HRT would help their results. They're doing everything right, the protein, the training, the sleep protocol, and the results are still slower than they expected, or the weight is not moving as fast. They're wondering if their hormones are working against them, and whether HRT will change that for them. The answer for many of these women is also yes, but not because HRT is a weight loss drug. It's because HRT will change the environment in which the GLP-1 can perform. Let me explain what HRT actually does that is relevant to your GLP-1 treatment. There are four main things, and all of them connect back to what we covered in earlier episodes of this series. Number one, it improves insulin sensitivity. Estrogen, especially when taken through the skin, through patches or gels, helps your cells respond to insulin better. This is the one main thing that declining estrogen takes away from you during perimenopause. HRT can restore some of that. Better insulin sensitivity means the GLP-1 medication has a better environment to do its job. Number two, HRT can improve your sleep. HRT is one of the most effective treatments for hot flashes and night sweats, which are the main cause of broken sleep in perimenopause. If you know, you know. Better sleep means lower cortisol. Lower cortisol means less insulin resistance. What does less insulin resistance mean? The GLP-1 can work better. It is a chain reaction, and the HRT therapy can fix it at the source. The third thing it does is protects your muscle. Estrogen supports muscle maintenance. When estrogen drops, muscle loss speeds up, and then this affects your metabolism. Now, HRT does not stop this entirely, but it does slow the loss. When you combine it with protein intake and resistance training, HRT can give muscle preservation a better chance in a woman taking a GLP-1 medication. The fourth thing that it does is it creates more GLP-1 receptor doors in the body. We covered this in episode 2. There's a link for that up there somewhere. Estrogen increases the number of GLP-1 receptor sites in the brain and the gut. Basically, more places for the medication to work. Replacing estrogen with hormone replacement therapy can restore some of these receptor sites. This means that the same dose of the GLP-1 that you were taking before HRT can now produce a stronger effect than it was in the beginning. This is why I say HRT changes the terrain. It does not replace a GLP-1. It does not do the same job, but it creates a better internal environment for the GLP-1 to work in. Think of it this way. The GLP-1 is like a strong team. HRT is like a great field to play on. The team still has to do the work, but a good field makes the game easier. Let me tell you what the research shows, and I'm going to be honest about this. This area is growing. We do not yet have huge, perfect clinical trials on HRT and GLP-1s together. But what we do have is consistent, and it points clearly in one direction. Study 1 was done with semaglutide with and without HRT. This was done in 2005. What it found was that women on semaglutide plus HRT lost 16% of their body weight at 12 months. Women on semaglutide without HRT only lost 12%. That is a meaningful difference, driven by the hormonal environment, not by doing more work or changing the dose. The second study that was done was tirzepatide with or without HRT. This was also done in 2025. Women taking tirzepatide and hormone replacement therapy had 45% of the group lose 20% or more of body weight. Women on tirzepatide without hormone replacement therapy had only 18% of them reach that threshold. Almost 3 times as many women hit the bigger weight loss goal on the hormone replacement therapy. Then the Mayo Clinic conducted a study in January of 2026. This study tested 400 postmenopausal women on tirzepatide, and it confirmed that women on hormone replacement therapy alongside the medication had significantly better results. Their outcomes actually look closer to what younger women who were not in the hormonal flux of perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause had achieved in their original clinical trials. Now, these are real studies, but most are just observational studies, but they show a strong pattern. They're not the same as a large randomized trial designed specifically for this question. That research is coming, but what we have now is enough to have this conversation with your provider. What it shows us is that postmenopausal women who did not use hormone replacement therapy had weaker GLP-1 results than those who did, and also weaker results than premenopausal women in the original trials. The estrogen gap is what explains most of that difference. HRT, for the right candidate, appears to be closing that gap significantly. Now, HRT is not for everyone, so let me be clear about who tends to be a good fit for it and who needs a more careful conversation before deciding to start. Women who are strong candidates for HRT are women whose GLP-1 results are slower than expected and maybe their labs suggest hormonal influence. If they're experiencing significant symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disruption, if you're within 10 years of actually reaching menopause, remember, perimenopausal symptoms can start and last for 10 years, especially in women of color. And starting it within this 10-year period can have great cardiac and bone benefits. If the woman has a good baseline health with no major contraindications to starting hormone replacement therapy, a woman whose hemoglobin A1C and blood sugar tend to be trending in the wrong direction even though they're on a GLP-1 medication. And if there's a woman who's fighting muscle loss even though they're doing resistance training and they're eating their protein, if they're still struggling with muscle loss on their DEXA scans or in-body scans, these could be good candidates for hormone replacement therapy. Now let's talk about women who may require more careful discussion about the benefits and risks of hormone replacement therapy. If you have a personal or strong family history of hormone receptor positive breast cancer, if you have a history of blood clots, although transdermal HRT carries a lower risk than having oral HRT, this is still a risk. If you have a history of stroke or certain heart conditions, if you've noticed unexplained vaginal bleeding, whether it's in between your cycles, whether you're postmenopausal and now having vaginal bleeding, this needs further investigation immediately. If you have active liver disease, or if you're 10 years past menopause and you never used hormone replacement therapy before or needed it before. These are women who can have a better, deeper conversation with their provider before starting. I want to stop here and talk specifically about the breast cancer concern, because this is a fear that stops most women from even having the conversation about hormone replacement therapy. The original Women's Health Initiative study from the early 2000s raised concerns about breast cancer risk with a specific type of combined HRT, oral conjugated equine estrogen plus synthetic progestogen, that specific combination. This study was also done in women who were significantly older and started hormone replacement therapy more than 10 years after going through menopause. The HRT landscape in 2026 looks vastly different. Transdermal estradiol, either through a patch or gel, has a different risk profile than oral estrogen. Bioidentical progesterone has a different risk profile than synthetic progestogen. Newer formulations, started earlier, inappropriate candidates carry a much lower risk than the original study suggested. The conversation you need to have with your provider should be based on current evidence, not a study done in 2002. Here's the part that I think matters most practically. You now have the information, but knowing the information and knowing how to walk in the appointment and advocate yourself are two different things. So let me give you the words. You can walk into your appointment with either provider and say these exact words, because I want you to have the exact language to use when you walk into these appointments to advocate for yourself. I have been reading about the connection between estrogen levels and GLP-1 receptors. There is recent data suggesting that women on HRT alongside GLP-1 medications have better outcomes, including a 2026 Mayo Clinic study that showed this clearly. I would like to talk about whether HRT might be appropriate for me, given where I am hormonally and how my GLP-1 results have been going. Can we look at my estrogen levels and my full hormone picture together? Shorten it, lengthen it, add to it, but that is how you can go in and advocate for yourself. This is a clinically grounded request. Any provider should engage with this seriously. If they dismiss it, and they dismiss it without explanation, that is information for you too. It might be time to find another provider. It is not unusual for women to need to advocate for themselves in this space. The research is newer. Not every provider has caught up with it yet, and you are allowed to ask follow-up questions. You're allowed to ask for a referral to a menopause specialist if your current provider doesn't feel equipped to give you that answer. Again, my own decision to not take HRT is based on my own specific clinical picture, my family history, my personal risk factors, and my own review of the evidence as a nurse practitioner who understands the data. It is not a recommendation for anyone else. It's the right decision for me today, and I will revisit it and as more evidence accumulates. This is how I want you to approach it too, not as a permanent yes or no, as an informed, revisable decision made with a full picture in mind and a provider who takes your questions seriously. Two doctors who are not talking to each other. A woman caught in the middle without the full picture. Now you have the full picture. HRT does not replace the GLP-1. GLP-1 does not replace hormone replacement therapy. For the right woman, used together with proper clinical oversight, they work in the same direction. Better insulin sensitivity, better sleep, better muscle support, more GLP-1 receptor sites, all of it pointing towards better results. Whether HRT is right for you is a conversation between you and your provider. What I hope that this episode gave you is the language to have it properly. If you want to review your specific hormone picture, your GLP-1 response, or whether hormone replacement is worth exploring with your provider, that is exactly what the Clarity Consult is. It is a conversation about your specific situation. There's a link in the description below if you're interested. One call, going over your full clinical picture and giving you a blueprint to take back with you to your provider to have these conversations. Drop a comment below for me if you're on hormone replacement therapy and a GLP-1, if you're on a GLP-1 and not a hormone replacement therapy, if you're thinking about starting HRT. I want to hear where you are in this journey. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.